1989, I was in 10th grade. Hard rock and metal riding high on the charts and in all the arenas, but there were a handful of bands who managed to dodge the glitz and glamour of it all and put out some good old-fashioned, sleazy at times, good old rock and roll music. Bands like Circus of Power, Dangerous Toys, Junkyard, and Tora Tora managed to keep it simple, real, and above all, timeless. Tora Tora reunited after many years away, and this year announced a new record deal with Frontiers Records and even released a new single called Rose of Jericho, which is absolutely outstanding, from their forthcoming album, Bastards of Beale. And with that being said, I'm going to stop talking by myself, and I'm going to introduce Anthony Quarter from Tora Tora. It's an honor.
What's happening? Hey, man, I'm happy to talk to you. It's been a second.
I wish more people were that excited to talk to me.
No, man, we're thrilled. We've had, man, the craziest stuff going on, man. I'm not kidding. When you were just talking, when you said Circus of Power and Dangerous Toys, of course, we toured with those guys. It was us and LA Guns.
Yes, I remember that. I wasn't old enough to get into the show, but I remember it.
Some of my favorite memories ever. I'm not kidding. We clicked with the Dangerous Toys guys just because we kind of had a Southern thing going on with them. But the LA Gun guys were so great to us. Mm-hmm. They, I think we kicked off the tour in like Dayton, Ohio, I think is where it was. Mm-hmm. And they said, meet downstairs in the hotel lobby, you know, and we were pretty green, man. We hadn't been on the road very much and we didn't know what to expect. And man, we walked in and they had everybody meet in the bar and have drinks and just told us, get ready. We're fisting to have the best time for the next, 6 or 8 weeks. We're just freaking fisting to throw a party.
Oh, and, man. What a great introduction, man.
It was so great. We just, man, every night, I mean, it was so fun. We were fans, we were watching them every night and listening, and it was just fun. And I stay in touch with Jason. I talked to him maybe a couple of months ago, and we just played in Austin. I was actually looking for him down there when we played. I was hoping I'd get a chance to catch up with him, but unfortunately, I guess our schedules missed each other. But Anyway, he's still the same. His voice is incredible. I mean, he's got 3 or 4 bands he's working in, the Broken Teeth and the Dangerous Toys and, Watchtower. I mean, he's done all kind of stuff. But, man, he was always just such a down-to-earth guy. And, man, he's so talented. His voice is the same. He hadn't changed a bit. He looks exactly the same. I mean, it's crazy. They're awesome, and we're happy. I think we're going to get to see them this next year. We're going to bump into them somewhere, I'm sure. So,
that is going to be amazing. That's going to be great, man.
We're ready to get back out and see some of the folks, man, some of the family that we hadn't seen in a long time. We were laughing. We kind of jumped out and did a few shows. And we've walked up to some folks and they said, man, you don't remember me. And we look at each other and go, yeah, man, I do remember you. We were partying our brains out last time I saw you and we had a ball. But it's just, man, I don't know. I guess we're getting to do this together. It's the 4 original guys from Tora Tora, man. We've been friends since we were, in high school together.
Right.
And to get the opportunity that Frontiers gave us just to go in and recreate that time together. When we walked in, I'm not lying, man. When I walked into the rehearsal room, I closed my eyes. The music came on, and I could smell like stale beer and cigarettes. And I was like, yeah, I remember this. And I was ready to jam, man. I'm not kidding. And then I opened my mouth, and I was like, wow, I'm a little bit older than I was last time I did this. But it felt great. It felt really good. The music, we were, I guess in our minds, had always thought we would get a chance to do this. We've been kind of on and off doing one-offs and stuff since about 2008.
Yes.
And so we wanted to do some recording and stuff. We just weren't sure when the timing was going to be right. And then a couple of years ago, we got a little more serious about it. About the end of 2016, we started talking about, we ought to do something. And honest to God, going on the Monsters of Rock cruise really sparked a lot for us. Patrick, our bass player, had kind of had a health scare, and he got an all clear from the doctors.
Yeah, I remember that was a big deal too, and I was so glad to see that he came out of that.
Yeah, man, it was pretty amazing. He actually had gone in for something else, and they just happened to see that. So, I mean, it was kind of like divine intervention from our point of view, that he was there and they caught everything in time, and
Right.
he feels good. He's in good health. And that was the first thing he said, I want to go play some shows as soon as he started feeling better. And we had already blocked out some time to go on the Monsters of Rock thing. And man, just to see his face on the boat, he was lit up. He couldn't wipe the freaking smile off his face. And we were there with all the people partying. And I mean, it was just like, oh my God, it was all the bands that were there were incredible, but it was incredible just to get back around everybody just in our community, man. It's a small community, and the people are tight. You're like family, man. I'm not kidding. When we think about it, we see people and we partied with them and stayed out all night, and especially playing around in Memphis. I mean, we knew everybody there growing up. And so when we got a show coming up on December 29th at Minglewood Hall in Memphis. We've been kind of promoting that on our social media and stuff, but I know I can look out in the audience and like individually look at each person and go, man, I partied with this dude, man. I had a great time with this guy. I'm not kidding. I can
but
think
that's
about
amazing.
it, man.
That's great though. Like
It's
when
so
you haven't
fun,
lost that when you haven't lost that connection, because, which is again why I'm so glad I'm getting the chance to finally talk to you, because I feel like you and I have been like Facebook friends for like a few years, and it's always like, oh, well, we're gonna try to figure this out, and then finally it happened. But like, it was one of those things that there's like this handful of bands from my youth that I really hold, to this high standard. And I don't know, I couldn't always explain it. And even to this day, like, it's like, you have like Iron Maiden and Alice Cooper and Priest, but then like on this other hand, you had like I mentioned, like Dangerous Toys and Circus of Power and, oh gosh, even, Tora Tora and
Man.
just like, Junkyard, all these bands that I think what it was that clicked with me was that coming from this like frumpy looking fat kid with bad hair, in high school, was that like, you'd see these really good looking rock gods, right? And you'd be like, well, fuck, man, I don't know, man. And then all of a sudden, I definitely mean this in all due respect, but then you see bands like Tora Tora and Dangerous Toys, and they're coming out in their jeans and t-shirts, and that's it. And I'm going, oh, well, shit, I can do that. You know what I mean? I don't have to look like that, So, like, I really grabbed onto that. But then, of course, along with it comes the music. And then, I was trying to get myself kind of set up for the interview today. And so, of course, I found myself going back and, I pulled out my my vinyl copy of Surprise Attack, and which
oh wow, vinyl, man, that's pretty special, man. Well, that's pretty good.
Well, I actually have been waiting for you guys to sign that since the Wild America tour, so we're gonna make this happen.
Man, we're way overdue. We'll have to do it. We're down there. We're coming in March, so man,
I know
that Rocklanta thing. I'm telling you, Bradley. I hope he's listening to this podcast, because that guy is incredible. We've had the best time. We got to know him and talk to him, and he's a first class character, man. I'm telling you.
Well,
he's great. He treated us really well. We went and did some shows up in the Northeast and played one with him, and we're looking forward to doing some more business with him. I know the Atlanta thing's gonna be great, but that'll be an ongoing relationship for us.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to talk to you about too, is because, like I said, like with the music, it played such a big role for me. But when I listened to Surprise Attack today, and then I went back and listened to Wild America, I reviewed Wild America for my blog probably a few years ago as just like kind of like a retro review, and it is. Does it? I mean, I'm trying to find a way to say this still without you feeling like you're on the spot. But like, when you go back and listen to that, does it surprise you how timeless Tora Tora's music is? Like, or do you think that that's like, it's that Memphis blood? Do you know what I mean?
Perspective on it, but I will tell you this: that the Wild America one, both of those records, that the guys that produced them is what blows me away. I mean, we were a rowdy little garage rock band and we got in the studio with Joe Hardy and Paul Ebersole on Surprise Attack.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Ebersole is really, he was the guy that brought us into getting a production deal at the studio and then getting signed to A&M. It was his kind of first big project. He was young like we were. And then they had Joe Hardy, who had already kind of been established. He had all the ZZ Top, Afterburners, and, you know, their records were hanging all over the wall. He had a bunch of success with all kind of bands. But they took us in, and man, back then you had time to groom yourself as far as in the studio. Budgets were different, time frames were different. It's not in the expedited role that it is now. Like, you know, You're trying to go lean and mean these days and stay as, you know, stay away from front loading yourself too much on the budgets and all that kind of stuff. But back then there was an opportunity for you to sell physical product. You could dig yourself out of a pretty big record budget. I mean, think about it. We were selling CDs for $10 or $20 at Walmart, you know.
Right.
It only costs a little bit to manufacture. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, Joe and them were so patient, and they were so great to us. And man, we built those records. We would do, you know, write. I mean, 50 or 60 songs probably through a year. Mm-hmm. But we would go in, we would cut 5 at a time, or 4, or however many, you know, handful that we had. We'd sneak in the middle of the night and set up in the studio and record them. And then out of that batch, we would pick, you know, okay, this one is the one that beats everything else. Now here's the bar. Now let's go back in. Now we got to beat this one to get it on the record. And so we did that over and over. But I guess what I was trying to say when you said, when you listen back to the production and everything, man, they like honed our sound, man. I'm not kidding. Joe and Paul and them, that we tried all kind of amps. We would, you know, change out the snares and the heads and I mean, it was crazy. But we really, really had a great time on Wild America. The first one, we were just trying to get used to being in the studio. Like, it was a new process, and, you know, I could hear myself singing, and I was like, oh my God, man, I can hit any note I want to.
I can screech, man.
You know, yeah. And it was amazing. I was used to everybody on 10, and I was standing there with like one speaker. Right. At rehearsal or whatever. But anyway, that was amazing. But Wild America was different because we kind of honed our skills. Like, we went out, we had gone on the road. We had never traveled before. So we went out and our eyes were like wide open. I mean, we went, man, there's a huge, big old world out there. And we came back to write for that one. We worked with a guy named John Hampton and a guy named Jeff Powell. He assisted on it. And then there was a guy that came in at the end and did some remixes, Arthur Payson, that had done some rap and Mitch Malloy stuff. But man, that second record, it just felt different. Like, we were a little more worldly. We were a little bit more confident in our abilities. And, you know, you as a creative person and a musician and stuff, you're always your hardest critic. You know, you're always trying to get better and come up with cool chops and things.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, outdo yourself. I mean, that's just a normal creative thing. But we had a little bit, not that we were like overconfident or cocky or anything, but we felt like, man, you know, we were playing 11 shows in a row or something. I mean, we were tight, man. The drummer and the bass player were like locked in on each other. And Keith's riffs, I mean, he was rehearsing and playing, and, you know, every night, and I was singing every night. So we were in pretty good form. And John and them, that was another time. We worked on that record almost, you know, a year and a half or 2 years while we were touring for Surprise Attack. We were woodshedding all those songs and putting them in and going and sneaking in when we were out of you know, coming in from out of town. And both of those I'm really, really proud of, man. My favorite, I think, is the Wild America sessions, just because we had gotten a little bit more worldly about, you know, our craft and everything. But Surprise Attack was just like incredible, man. When we walked in and heard the mixes and everything with Joe and them, we were just freaking out, man. We thought it was the coolest thing in the world. But,
I mean, when you're a young band and I mean, I've even had that experience myself with my own band, you know, is that like you said, like when you're trapped in a room and you're woodshedding and you're coming up with these riffs and you're hearing yourself on like a shitty PA with like a blown speaker or like, you know, whatever. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you go into the studio and you're like, wow, that's what I sound like when I sing. Jesus Christ, man.
Right.
Like,
wow,
but it's like
good. It sounds different.
It opens the world up to you. But I always thought that, to me, Wild America was like the growth between Surprise Attack and and Wild America, I always thought was, to me, akin to how the Black Crowes grew from Shake Your Moneymaker to Southern Harmony Musical Companion. You know what I mean? Like you've got your first album and you've got your second album, but then within that span, it's almost like you could have very easily done another Surprise Attack, but it was so weird to me because what I felt and what I still feel when I listen to Wild America is I feel like I'm actually hearing Tora Tora. I'm hearing Memphis. I'm hearing your roots. I'm hearing the horns. I'm hearing, even just the lyrical, subject matter, of songs Lay Your Money Down and,
man. Those were fun, man. God, it brings back so many good memories. And by the way, man, the Black Crowes, we were huge fans of theirs. We actually played a show with them when they were Mr. Crow's Garden.
Oh, I think every band has played with Mr. Crow's Garden.
It was funny. We did the Cotton Club. I don't know if you remember that place or not, but
I do remember the Cotton Club because there were so many great shows I was not old enough to get into.
It was crazy. We saw them. And we listened to them when they were playing, and we were like, man, these dudes, they just have this sound about them or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this DJ friend of ours in Memphis that helped break us, his name is Malcolm Riker. He worked for a station back then called Rock 98 that had a locals only show, and he was real close to everybody in the Memphis scene. He got in touch with us on the road, and he said, have you heard this band, the Black Crowes? And we were like, no, man. He said they cut a Memphis song. They cut Hard to Handle from Otis Redding, and he said it's going to be a huge success. It's going to be a monster hit.
That is so great.
And we couldn't believe it. We started backtracking, and we remembered Mr. Crow's Garden. We said, that's those guys. That's that sound that they had. That was it. We couldn't believe it. We were like, oh my God, they were telling us that they were getting ready to, go out on the road, and they were working with a producer. And you heard that a lot on the road. Everybody we were playing with, people would have things they had going on. But, I mean, when they came out, man, they exploded. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh, and
it was just good old Southern rock, man. I mean, it was just great, man. He was such a good singer, soulful, and the music was great. But anyway, when you said that, I just got to thinking about it. But, man, yeah, having the horns on the record, I mean, until they passed away, I stayed friends with Wayne and Andrew.
Oh, wow.
When we met them, they came up. We used to have a rehearsal studio that was about a mile or so from Ardent in Midtown Memphis. And it used to be an old jingle studio, so it still had all the 2-inch glass in it. It had a room A and B and an upstairs echo chamber and all that stuff. Well, we had rented it to do our rehearsals in. And it kind of looked like a old hippie commune kind of. There was all these buildings that were kind of beat up next to each other, but
right.
It was perfect for us. It was soundproof and we could get in there and crank up. But anyway, the horns came in and they felt like we had known them our whole life when we started talking to them. I mean, they talked to us about riding around with Otis Redding. They said we were an interracial group of musicians, and they said we would be hungry and be scared to pull over because we thought somebody was going to get killed. I mean, it was a different time, But Wayne and Andrew at the time were kind of the marquee players. They were out with like Sting and the Robert Cray band when we met them. This was probably like 91 or something like that.
Right.
But they had played on like 300 number one records. But they were just the most salt of the earth. I mean, Wayne just said, man, you know what? I'm a guy from Arkansas, out in the middle of the cotton fields. I never really thought about that I was going to be a world traveling musician. Or he just never approached it that way. He just always stayed humble. And that whole experience with them just touched our life, man. I'm not kidding. It was so great, and they were so nice. We actually got to play on their 25th anniversary party in Memphis while we were working with them.
So
we got an invite to do that, and then once we did that with them, we said, hey, we're playing this amphitheater down the road in Memphis. It's called Mud Island. And we said, why don't y'all come be our guest at that one? And so somebody has sent me over the years a video that was on a DVD, and it was somebody had a camcorder backstage and was walking around with it and got me and Wayne and everybody joking around backstage, having drinks and pointing at the camera and cutting up. I mean, it was just priceless, man. It was, I was so happy that somebody caught that time together.
It's so funny because
really
it's as many people who complain about nowadays, like filming shows with cell phones and everything, with that, which I do agree can get out of hand. There's times in my life where like I would have killed to have seen like that Tora Tora performance. Do you know what I mean? And like no one was there with a camera. You know
Man,
what I mean?
I gotta be honest with you. That show with them, it was Wildside and Roxy Blue, who was another band from Memphis.
I remember. Yeah.
Signed to Geffen.
Yep, I remember Roxy Blue very well.
And that night was so special. It's one of my favorite ones ever. We broke an attendance record at the amphitheater that night, and the stage, when we were on stage with the Memphis Horns, we had a guy sitting in and a guy named Greg Redding that played B3 with us, and the horns. It was a totally different show than anything we've ever done. I mean, it just felt different. It was magic. The weather was perfect. It was beautiful. Everybody was just partying their brains out, going crazy, and it's one of my all-time favorite shows. But that, man, having the horns and stuff was a step out for us. We were a little 4-piece or a little 3-piece rock band with a singer. So having the horns and everything was different. When we first started recording, we had Bobby Keys and Jim Price, who had done the stuff with the Stones. They came in.
Yeah.
And Jim had written a big chart arrangement and everything. It was real busy. It was moving around, and we all got in the studio and got to talking. And we said, man, if we do this, we're going to have to travel with a horn section, because it was just too dominant in song. And then somebody said, hey, why don't we call Wayne and Andrew? Why don't they just come by? They're in town for a minute off the road. Why don't we have them come by? And it was two totally different styles,
Yeah.
The horns were kind of a little bit more not as busy, and they just had this sound about them. And we got to listen. We had both of the horn sections, that we could A and B switch back and forth between. And finally we said, man, let's stick with the horns. Let's do that. We thought we could pull the song off, live without them.
Yeah.
The way that they had done it. So, but anyway,
that was the whole thing.
Was crazy.
Was that like those horns on Dead Man's Hand? It's just like,
yeah.
It works. It's almost like they knew, because like you said, like they knew how to play with a band, and they knew how to make something that could potentially mean that they wouldn't be there to play it. You know what I mean? Which is kind of crucial to being a session player, because you have to have enough foresight to kind of look at it and go, okay, yeah, I know I'm here to do something, but I also have to kind of keep in mind that these guys are going to be playing this without me, so you've got to kind of, the song comes first.
It was really fun, man. They're such sweet people, man. I have the best memories of them. We had great times with them, not only just doing music, but just hanging out. I mean, I moved to Nashville. I've been up here about, I don't know, 13 years or something like that. But Wayne had migrated up this way too. So, I mean, I stayed in touch with him up here, and then he moved back to Memphis before he passed away. We kind of stayed on each other's radar. But anyway, yeah, man, the Wild America it was one of my craziest experiences. I'm telling you, we loved the recording process. Was nuts. I mean, we probably wrote, no kidding, about 60 or 70 songs for those sessions.
Well, that's what I was going to kind of segue into, because you guys did write a shit ton of material for those albums. And then like a few years ago, actually it's more than a few. God, I can't believe it's already almost 10 years now. There was a small label called TNA Records.
It was FNA.
FNA Records.
It's a guy out of Nashville.
Of course, I would say TNA. Of course, you know what I mean.
It makes sense, man. Yeah, absolutely. No, there was a guy up here. His name's Steve. That was in Nashville. He came up to and approached me and asked me if we had any existing material that didn't go out. From the Tora sessions,
Mm-hmm.
And but I had some demo tapes. I didn't have rights to any of the masters or anything that we had cut for A&M. But I said, man, I got some demo stuff that I could probably get my hands on. that we had just demoed up and stuff. And it was, for us, I think it was more of just collecting those snapshots. Like we had things on cassettes and DATs and all these different, it was just sprawled out all over the place. And we said, hey man, this might give us a chance to like organize this material and just put it in some kind of order.
Right.
Especially like chronologically, where we could put the songs in what sessions and all that kind of stuff.
Because
so
that was
fun.
Going to be my big question, was because I know it was split into like three albums. I think it was Misbehaving, Before and After, and Bombs Away. And do you recall which of those, like what sessions each of those came from, or did they get mixed out through?
No. The Before and After, but the Before and After was, we had an EP before we got signed to A&M. It was called To Rock to Roll.
I remember that. It was like a super rare, sought off.
Yeah.
Like when I was in high school. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I wanted one so bad when I was in high school.
Man, it was funny. So we had pressed those cassettes up, and our guitar player Keith went and put them on consignment at music stores. So we'd put them by the register and just leave them up front, and we worked out some deals with them. He was pretty business savvy back then. He was pretty like a little entrepreneur. And
someone has to be.
So half of that record is that EP, and then there was some home demos that we did like on a Tascam 8-track or something that we transferred to put on the After, and that was after during the last sessions for A&M. We had a different rehearsal space that was out by the airport, and we had done some recordings and stuff like that. Right. So the Before and After were those two. It was at the very beginning, and then it was the very end, like right before the record got shelved and all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Then Bombs Away is the Surprise Attack outtake.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because
that we had cut these songs, and then when we got ready to go into master mode and really cut, for A&M and all that, these were the ones that didn't make that round. So it's kind of fun if you listened to us a long time ago. It would be fun to just see the ones that made it and didn't, and kind of look and compare and all that kind of stuff. And then the Misbehaving were the ones from the Wild America time. So, but man, it was crazy. That rehearsal room we had, there was like 3 or 4 bands that were rehearsing in there that were affiliated with Ardent Studios. So we had some of our friends there. They went into a band. They started out as Diets, and they were one of the bands in Memphis that they were the band that we opened up for before we ever had a following or anything. And we became friends with them, and we stayed friends with them all through till today. Right. Our drummer John is actually playing in a band with the singer from that band called Fever Tree that's out of Memphis, and they're together doing some original stuff. But anyway, it was us, and then they had changed their name to Johnny Gray, which was their new project they were working on. And there was a guy named Eric Gales. I don't know if you've ever heard of Eric Gales. Oh,
Eric Gales, the guitar player. Fucking fantastic, man.
Well, listen, we were all in the same
He had the white shirt and the hat and everything. I totally remember him. Yeah.
If you have not seen him lately, you need to look him up now. He is freaking tearing it up, man. That dude he's rocking. I'm not kidding. But we were little kids. We all grew up together, and we've all been friends for, 25 or 30 years. So it just, when I think about that era and all that stuff, I mean, it was some of the best times of my life, man. That's all we did is work on music all day. I mean, I woke up every day, and that's the first thing I did is go drive to the rehearsal room and crank the amps on, or start working on lyrics, or run to the studio or whatever. It was a full-time job, man. That's what we were doing. We were working on it. But, man, I love all that stuff. I love the Wild America stuff. And, there was a point there where a little bit of some music came out that was off the Revolution Day sessions, which was...
That was going to be my next question, was that with the Revolution Day thing was...
Yeah, it was a little different time period, because that's when, like, all the grunge stuff had happened.
Yeah.
A&M had Soundgarden, who just exploded. I mean, they were just all over the place, man.
Right.
I mean, and that Chris guy, I mean, he was just an incredible singer. Their whole band was incredible. And so it was rough for us. We were kind of vying for attention, you know, trying to figure out where we fit in everything. The whole paradigm of the music industry was shifting, you know. And so that was a little bit of a darker time. And we were all kind of feeling, you know, a little bit of pressure, man. We had done Wild America and went out in support of it on the road. And we came back and we were like, hey, man, there's a lot kind of riding on these, you know, these next few sessions that we do, because we got to deliver something that's going to just, you know, completely blow the thing away. So
Right.
I know that all of us individually as band members were feeling that of like, hey, we really want to do something amazing. And we were writing with some of the same people. The Memphis Horns came back. Some of our, you know, girlfriend or, you know, musician girlfriends were there singing backups with us and doing things. So we were real focused on the sessions and stuff. And we were kind of just riding out the embers of what had been going on.
Right.
It kind of been hot for a minute, and then it was kind of like we were riding out and trying to see if we were going to be able to sustain ourselves. You know, in retrospect, anyway, when we were in the thick of it, we weren't thinking about that at all. We were kind of just in survival mode, you know, just trying to meet the requirements and everything of the record label. And but it was a very creative time. We were trying to find a way to still be Tora Tora, but not do the same thing that we did, but take it somewhere new creatively for us, you know, to
Right.
keep growing and keep doing things. So it was a little bit different record, but I'm glad that the demos ended up finding the light of day. There was a time where people were kind of looking for it and couldn't find it. And then we just said, you know what, let's just, the things that we do have, that we have control of, or that we have access to, let's go ahead and let that out. Because there were some versions of it that I think somebody had burned them off like a cassette or something, and the tempos were wrong. Like it was.
I was
sped
actually
up.
going to say it was really weird because I remember something happened where like something popped up on like eBay or something where somebody was selling like, I don't know
some
if
Tora Tora reels or something.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, do you remember that? And I just
Yeah.
remember thinking like, holy shit, because like aside from like, you know, the demo, you know, like, you know, Revolution Day was one of those things that like was almost kind of hearsay because like, you know, at least like me and my friends, you know, when we were still into you guys, like we were like, did they ever do another album? Like what happened? And then you would start to hear about it. And then when I saw that pop up on eBay and it was going for like $1,000 or something, I was like, oh, fuck the person who buys that thing, man. They better record.
Better give it back to the band.
That's what I was
right.
like. I was like, if I had the money, I would have bought that shit and fucking given
Yeah.
it back to you guys and been like, take this to the studio and fucking put it out, you know?
Yeah, bake that bitch. Yeah, that's right, man. So, but anyway, that was amazing. We got to do that. I am proud of the songs that are on there. There's a few of them. We wrote a song called "Shelter from the Rain" with Taylor Rhodes, who had worked with Kix.
It's an incredible song. Yes.
Yeah, we love that one. You know, he had done Faith Healer with us and Amnesia on the other records. So we came back up here to Nashville and wrote a couple more with him for the third project. But anyway, it was incredible. It was a lot. I mean, I could do stories on each one of these for, you know, I could sit here all night talking about it, but it was a good time creatively and stuff for us. It was hard from a business standpoint because we were kind of feeling pressure, and the A&R guy that had signed us, he signed Extreme, and then he signed Soundgarden, and then he was had us as a third signing. And he was at the point where when Extreme and Soundgarden had the kind of success they were having, he had other companies approaching him to come work for them. And we were really close to him, and he told us at one point, he said, man, this is going to be an offer I can't turn down. It's going to be, they're going to come back with something.
Right.
And we kind of knew it at that point. We were like, you know, pick the phone up, call everybody in the studio. Let's record as quick as we can. There's, you know, the ship's going down. But I just remember freaking out when I found out the record was not going to come out. It wasn't like if it was going to come out. It's like, it's not going to come out. We're going to shelve it. And I was devastated. You know, we had been running around for about 6 years wide open. And so anyway, we kind of left off at that period where everybody was kind of in a little bit of a flux because, you know, we were wondering about going back on the road, and some of us were feeling like we wanted to take a break. And we just said, you know what, instead of having some kind of big falling out or some kind of weird situation between all of us, let's just take a break. And when we get ready to come back, let's do it. And in my mind, I thought it was going to be like a month or something. I'd see it.
Oops.
But it ended up taking a little bit longer. And that was fine. I mean, I kept singing and playing. I was real, I wanted to keep pursuing music and stuff, but I kind of wanted to do something different.
Well, you did your own thing for a while. I
kind of went in the bluesy direction. I kind of went and did some acoustic stuff, and
which, by the way, was incredible. And not to be downplayed, that I thought when your solo stuff was great.
Well, thanks, man. It was a lot of fun working on it. It just showed a different side of stuff. But anyway, if we kind of flash forward, about 2001, we got together. We did a benefit for one of our crew guys, and it felt great. But then it still took us a little bit longer. I mean, we would see each other. We always stayed in touch, and we're kind of in each other's, vision in our universe or whatever. It was just, we were trying to find the right time. And then when it started getting close to like our 20th anniversary, about 2008, that's when we kind of said, you know what, let's do something. Let's get together and just see if we can still do it, see if it feels good, And from that night on, we did a show in Memphis. We've got to do this. We got to stay in touch with each other, even if it's only a few times a year.
Right.
So those seeds were being sown way back then for what we've done now, which is, in the middle of 2017 or something, we ran into Frontiers, and there was a guy named Nick Teeter that reached out to us. And when he said, would you guys be interested in doing this project with Frontiers, we were just like, oh my gosh, man, it's like the planets are lining up. Everybody's at the point where we could do this. Our children are all big enough where they're kind of independent and have their own agendas. And, we could take off and do some shows. On the weekends, sneak away for a couple of shows. So, man, I believe in the back of our mind through those years from 2008 moving on that we had kind of been, woodshedding some material and ideas, riffs and stuff that we thought, man, if we ever got together, this would really sound good, with the Tora sound on it.
Right. And
we were kind of going to use those, but man, as soon as we got together, we had so many ideas. We probably had enough for 2 records when we got together, and just said, man, we got all this to go through. Let's just whittle through it and see what feels good. But we were kind of apprehensive and nervous too, because we were wondering what we were going to sound like now. We're like, dude, what's it going to sound like when we all go in there? We're not doing this every night like we did a long time ago where we were together 24/7. But I'm telling you, it was just like we picked up right where we left off from Revolution Day, man. It was like we walked in, and the first rehearsal that we did where we were just everybody's trading out licks and arrangements and all that stuff. We were just like, man, dude, this is going to be so fun.
Well, it's also kind of like riding a bike in a sense, because you are back with these people who you spent a large chunk of time with, musically, creatively, and personally. That stuff doesn't just dissipate and go away. It's like when it gets rekindled, it's exactly like you said. You're like, oh my gosh, this is it feels like old times again.
We had a lot of experience and stuff on and influence on us since our early records and all that. When we did it at the beginning, it's like the old saying, you kind of have your whole life to write your first record, and then you go through these experiences and you kind of catch a time capsule where you are each record, which back in the heyday, people were doing a record every year or every 2 years. But for us, it had been a huge gap of all these things and perspectives and things that have touched your life and things you wanted to forget about and things that you wanted to remember. And, all those things came flooding to the forefront. And man, when we sat down and started working on this, and especially from, not to make it all about me, but from my perspective of coming to Nashville, it's a totally different world than Memphis. They're super, super similar. They're very, eclectic musically, and you can walk in any hole in the wall in either city and see somebody that you just go, man, why does the whole world not know who this guy's name is? He's amazing. They both have that element to them, but Nashville is much more structured, like corporately structured with the labels and publishing companies and all that.
Right.
It's got infrastructure, you know? And so there's a double-edged conversation we can have about both that. I like kind of the raunchy, gritty thing of Memphis just because I grew up there and that's what I was used to.
Right.
But up here, it's more about a craft and it's more about, you know, it feels like to me, it's much more business oriented. But the songwriting itself, man, I got exposed to so many people, especially I worked in the publishing world for about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And I mean, I heard some of the most incredible songs, man. Dude, I'm telling you, some people that just the way they wrote songs, the way they put words together, the arrangements they did, that definitely had an influence on me up here.
And that's awesome because so did that bleed into the process of making Bastards of Beale? Like, yeah,
I think so. I think it influenced us. I think it did on me as far from a lyric standpoint and from building doing arrangements, you know.
Right.
It was just a lot of fun. I mean, it just seemed like it was so comfortable. Like the whole experience, we had a lot of creative control over what was going on. There was no pressure from Frontiers. They were like, you know, you guys have at it. Just go cut us a great record. And we worked on it. We started. We signed the contract with them back in November of 2017, and when we had Patrick's event, we did a fundraiser for him and did a DVD to raise money. I remember
that. Yes.
When we did that, Jeff Powell, the guy that I talked to you about earlier from Wild America, he was an assistant engineer back then. He was our age. He was the young gun in the room with us. So when the work people left the studio and the producer and everybody left for the night, he was the guy that got locked in the studio with us to make sure we didn't push the record button and record over the masters, you know, while we were in there partying and stuff. And he just watched out for us. You know, he's like, hey, here's the volume knob. You can twist it all you want to. Just don't touch anything
else.
Don't touch
that button.
You know, we can replay it 1,000,000 times tonight if you want to. That's cool, but just don't touch anything. But anyway, we spent hours and hours and hours with him. And so he got up on Patrick's behalf at that benefit and said a few words. And then he watched the show. Well, a couple of months later, he wrote me on Facebook. He was in England, I think over at Abbey Road or somewhere. He had worked with Tom Dowd. He had worked under him.
Oh, right.
His recording techniques and all that. And he's had a lot of success. I mean, he's very humble, but he's incredible at what he does. But anyway, he said, man, I've been thinking about y'all. He said, you just have a certain sound. It sounds like Tora Tora. He said, would you like to come down here to Sam Phillips' studio? He goes, I'm cutting vinyl. He's got the lay machine, you know, that cuts vinyl. So he said, do you want to come cut a couple of singles? And he didn't know it at the time. We were talking to Frontiers and we said, you're not going to believe this. We don't want to come cut two. We want to come cut a whole record.
Oh, and so, how incredible, man.
I mean, I'm getting chill bumps telling you. It was just like the stars lined up. So we said, let's just make a date where everybody's comfortable. We're not in a hurry or, you know, under the gun, but that we could just come in and have a good time. And we were going to have to do it, you know, quickly because we wanted to keep the budget down and all that stuff.
Right.
And we just worked it out. We went in the summer. I think we started in June, and we did the whole project. Took 6 days. But that's
incredible. That's like old days, man. That's like old school.
It was, man. It was like we did a ton of pre-production because he just said, I just want you to be really ready when you come in. And he goes, that'll save you time on cutting. And when we tracked, we just went in and did the instruments live. And then Keith and I went back in and did background vocals and guitar solos. But on
Isn't
the record,
it amazing though that when you do it that way after doing it like the old school way, feel like you realize you go, God, I spent a lot of time in the studio. I probably didn't need to be there.
Yeah,
You know?
time and money and all kinds. We were thinking. We looked at each other one time. I was talking to Keith. And I said, "What were we doing? How did it take us 2 years to do a record?" And he goes, "Well, we were drinking a lot back then. We were having a lot of fun. We were doing a lot of experimenting and freaking out stuff."
But you were probably also writing in the studio at the time as well, and
yeah,
whatnot.
We did a lot of that.
Whereas,
That's
like
true.
you kind of go into it these days. I mean, I've learned that just I mean, I'm 45 now, so when I started playing in bands when I was younger, making albums with my band, the band I have now, it's like you totally learn that. You go, okay, you know what we're gonna do? We have to pick like the 8 or 9 songs or 7 songs that we're gonna record. We're gonna rehearse those songs for a month and a half. Then we're going to go into the studio and we're going to cut them in 6 hours, and then we'll spend the next day mixing.
Yeah.
And that's like, in and out, man,
It was so fun. I think this recording is the closest to that first EP, the little Tora Tora thing that we did when we were like 18 or 19. I mean, it's just, we went in and there's not a keyboard on it. There's not even a tambourine on it. I mean, we just said, let's turn the amps on. Let's walk in. Let's count the song off. And let's just let it be what it's going to be. Let's just go in and do it. And man, it was kind of really fulfilling. I mean, we could have spent a lot of time doing extra stuff and we talked about all those kind of things, but we said, you know what, let's let it just be us. Let's just be raw. And
I'll be honest, man, when I heard Rose of Jericho for the first time, it was one of those things where, like, you go from, and I'm sure this happens to all of us music fanatics, is that like you hear something and then all of a sudden you're not 45 anymore with like a lame back. You know what I mean? All of a sudden you're like, God damn, I feel like I'm 17 and swigging beer with my friend in his garage again. Like, it was just like, but not in a bad way, not in the sense that it was a dated way, but like that, like what I loved so much that with what you guys did is that you guys, and obviously you can hear I'm excited because when I get excited, I'm gonna have to take a fucking Xanax after this interview because I'm like ecstatic right now. But but just hearing this song, and then like there's nothing better than when one of your favorite bands comes back, and not only do they come back, but they come, it's like I'm a huge Tesla fan. I'm really good friends.
Oh, we did too. We love them, man.
I'm like really good friends with Jeff Keith,
Oh, man, you got to tell him that I was talking about him. He's one of my favorite singers ever.
Oh, I will totally tell him because I'm gonna see it. They're gonna be here after the turn of the year at some point. But it was one of those same things where, like, I remember telling Jeff, I was like, of course, it's so weird to me to think that I'm sitting next to you and talking. And he was just like, man, you know what? He goes, but we were just a band. We were making songs and we had no agenda other than just being right then in the now. He said, so that's why, like, when we came back and we had all this new material, he goes, it didn't sound so weird because we still kind of approached it the same way we did when we were like 20, and I kind of felt that way with Rose of Jericho. Is when I heard that, I was like, this is Tora Tora. Like, this is like,
man, that's so exciting. That sounds fun, man.
God,
that makes me happy.
I mean, it totally.
We were wondering what everybody was going to say. Well, that was the one thing we were like, I wonder what they're going to say when they hear this. If it's going to throw people off, or if they're going to say, it sounds like they did a long time ago, or it was so fun. We can't wait for everybody to hear the rest of the record. I think y'all are going to get a sneak peek in January. There'll be something. We got a surprise coming in then, and then the records drop in February 22nd. So there'll be another song and stuff out by then. So you'll get a couple before the record drops.
Oh, sure. I can't wait. And then you've got in March you've got Rocklanta, where you're going to be here, which I almost like shat my pants, man, when I was like, Jesus Christ, man, Roxy Blue, Tora Tora, Lillian Axe, who's from my hometown in New Orleans, Dangerous Toys. Man,
it's going to be a blowout, man.
Dude, I was like, just those 4 bands alone, man. I'm like, dude, you've got my Saturday, man.
I know. We can't wait. We're so excited. But we're doing that. We're doing Rocklanta. Then we're going to do M3. We're going to make our first appearance there. We've never gone. I think it's 11 years it's been going. So
You're
we're
gonna
looking
have a
forward
blast. M3. I've never been, and I keep saying I want to go though. But M3 is everybody I know that's gone has just said it's just a blast. You know.
Well, we're looking so forward to that. And then Wolfpack Productions has got us going out to Colorado. So we're going out to Denver in May, the same month as M3. So we'll be out there. But we've got some more announcements coming up. We're working on a couple of things behind the scenes that we're going to let out hopefully soon for more shows. And
that's what I was just going to ask. Will there be a little more touring and a little more possibility of seeing Tora Tora outside of, the festivals and whatnot,
We're doing it now. We're kind of just been testing out some of our old markets. We went down to Austin and Fort Worth and Houston, and we want to go out to the West Coast. We want to go revisit the East Coast. We launched out of the East Coast a long time ago, so we got a lot of friends and family and stuff up there from what we call our Tora Tribe, the people that we used to run around with. So we're looking forward to doing all that. I think you're going to see us more active probably next year. It's the 30th anniversary of Surprise Attack, so we'll be out doing some promotion on that. I can't believe I'm saying that, man. It was like a blink.
I can't believe you're saying that, dude, because I was like, good Lord, I remember buying that album when I was in 10th grade, man. I know. Jesus.
We're thrilled about it, though. We're going to do a little bit of that. We got the Frontiers thing going on, and then we would love – bucket list for us would be to go do some dates in Europe. We're trying to work on that. There's nothing like, in writing or cut in stone or anything, but we're kind of looking around because we've never done it as a band.
Right.
They've never had us up there before. So we want to do that. But we'll keep you guys. The best way to keep in touch with us is to keep up with us on social media. It's Tora Tora Band on Facebook, at Tora Tora on Instagram. We're on Twitter, and it's toratoramusic.com is our website, so you can find us there. That's got our merch on it and the tour dates that are popping up and all that. So,
well, that's amazing, man. Well, I only have a couple more questions I've been dying to ask you before I let you go, because this is stuff that's always I love asking bands this, but looking back on your albums, is there one song at all, or maybe a couple, that you look back on and you just kind of face palm and you go, I kind of wish you wouldn't have done that one? Man,
oh God. Well, some of those outtake records definitely have songs on them that didn't make the cut.
Let's talk about the studio ones, the ones that were released. The
ones that were released, I'm trying to think. Gosh, I don't know. Each one of them so different and weird. I don't know. Maybe not the song that we did, but maybe my performances. Like sometimes maybe listening back to Hard Times, maybe I would sing that different. And maybe it's just because I'm older. Like when I listen back to that one now, that was a little more bluesy one. And I really got into the blues later after the Tora stuff was over.
Right.
And then I'm trying to think on Wild America if there was one. Gosh, I'm trying to think of the songs now because I'm used to the same old set list all the time.
You guys better shake it up for me, man.
Yeah, I'll have to think on that. I'll have to think of one.
Because I was actually just saying, I was actually just, I don't know if you saw my comment, but I posted on Facebook. I said, I got my request in for City of Kings. So if y'all don't even know that, you better start practicing.
Yeah, we did that one. We've got that one in set. I can give that away for sure.
That one, because that was I mean, to me that was like one of the most awesome album closers. Like I was such a great
playing that one.
Such a great one. Well, what about the other way around though? Like, well, what about one that was like what's one that you never get tired of? Or that you always look forward to, like when you see it on the set list, you go like, "Fuck yeah!"
Man, I'll tell you one. We wrote a song called "Nowhere to Go But Down" with Stan Lynch.
Oh, it's one of my
Heartbreakers.
Absolute favorite songs.
Every time I play a show, whether I'm doing acoustic or we're playing Tora, I play that one. I love that one. That's one of my favorite ones. Man, when you were asking one that I maybe not necessarily would do, one for the road, maybe now. That's one off the the first record, maybe. I haven't visited that one in a really long time. But I mean, we literally threw that song together in like 10 minutes. Lyrically, it's not very, doesn't have any depth.
You're kind of like, and it sounds like it.
Yeah, that might be my face for that one, for that record. But I got to think about Wild America. We were really picky, man. We all got really protective of the songs we were working on.
It's funny, man, because Wild America to me sounds so meticulously like done in the sense that like I can count on like two hands, you know, at least in my opinion, albums that I consider to be like flawless, where you can listen to them from start to end without feeling like, I need to skip this one. Wild America is in that top.
Man, I'm telling you,
it's
the hats go off to those producers and stuff. They were super patient with us. We did really, really bust our ass on that record.
But it's the songs, man. I mean,
it was a long way, man.
Yeah, I love, and your modesty really comes through on this interview, which I love. But dude, seriously, it's the songs, it's the songwriting. It's like,
oh man,
everything about that
fun.
Album was just like, I mean, like even when I listen to it now, you know, like when I listen to As Time Goes By, or when I listen to Faith Healer, or when, Dude,
we had so much fun putting that together.
Dude,
I'm not kidding. When we talk about it right now, I just get flashes of stuff we were partying. I mean,
dude, I'll be honest, man. I was listening to the song Wild America as my pump up song before our last gig.
Oh yeah, man.
It got me all pumped.
It really was wild, man. We went out and saw things that we had never seen before, man. When we went on that tour, that was during Surprise Attack, before we wrote that song. It was definitely a hat tip to. But I'm telling you, man, that's one thing about the Bastards of Beale, and kind of our theme, I guess, of the tour thing, is it's always been about us and the family, the Tora Tribe, the people that we're with them, man. Without them, we don't get to do this. So we don't take it for granted now that we're older, especially, and get a chance to do this again. This record is real geared towards that, man, about the community. We thought about that. And the culture, man, we all want to belong and be a part of something and get together. The world's crazy. There's all kind of crazy crap going on. And when we get together, we forget about whatever it is that's on your mind. We're in there together. And it's powerful. I mean, it just moves us. So it's pretty crazy.
That's a beautiful thing, because dude, that's a frame of thought that I think that I carry with my band when we take the stage. I think it's a frame of thinking and believing that every band should think of. And all I can tell you, dude, is that, God damn, Anthony, I could talk to you all fucking night, dude. Seriously,
man,
I might have to just come up to Nashville and just like spend a weekend with you or something.
Yeah, man. Listen, this is what we need to do. We need to, when the record comes out, let's get together again and we'll go through the record, and I can talk to you about the songs and stuff.
Dude, sold, man. We will do this again,
awesome.
man.
And I'll see you. I'm going to see you in March, no matter what. So we're going to have a good time.
Oh man. Well, Anthony, dude, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk about Tora Tora and to just make this big ass kid's dream, man. Like it's one of my favorite things to do, is to talk to the bands I grew up with and that I really looked up to, and talking to you is a real treat, man. And
man, listen, thank you for having me, and thanks for giving me a platform, a way to reach out to people, man. I really appreciate you taking time with me.
Well, no problem, man. Well, we'll have it up soon, and then but thanks for talking, dude, and I'm gonna see you in March, definitely.
Awesome, man. We'll see you down there, man, in March.